What do you think of the whole quarantine thing?
Fed up with it. I want to go out for a walk and I want to go down to the shop. I'm scared of catching something.
You could go for a walk if you want to stay away from other people.
I sign every email now with "I hope you're doing well and staying safe in these unprecedented times." It's mostly just because it looks flashy, but there's also a bit of humor to it. It's like a playful kind of acknowledgement that this is weird and there's no established etiquette to any of this. I wouldn't say this is a tragedy. Not for everyone, anyway, definitely not for me. It's a tragedy for people in the heavily affected countries. It's a tragedy for people losing loved ones and not being able to have a proper funeral for them. It's a tragedy for all of the vulnerable people like my grandparents who aren't used to being stuck inside so long but are terrified of going out the front door. For the rest of us, tragedy isn't the right word. The right word's more melancholy. And that's just another word for being kind of sad, but mostly just bored. And I think everyone is starting to get very, very bored. I'm the filmmaker for the Arts for Reconciliation Research Project, which is normally aimed at the discussion of how creative practice can bridge a community. But when I was asked to give my thoughts on the form that idea takes in these unprecedented times, it made me reflect on how crucial it is that everyone inside has something to do. You know, they can read, they can watch, they can listen, and what would they do without that right now? My grandparents are not used to the world being reduced to what they can reach in their home and what they can see from their garden. You know, suddenly an island that stretches 32,000 miles is reduced to a 30-meter plot of land. Their media and their entertainment isn't a treat anymore. You know, it's a lifeline. It's the last connection to a world that's addicted to being interconnected. There's a dramatic irony in how important the arts have become for us, despite that the artists themselves aren't able to work anymore. You could finish watching your 14th TV show since isolation started, and chances are every name flashing back in the credits belongs to someone that's struggling to get by right now. I've seen a lot of my theatre friends posting an image of a single light left on stage, and it turns out that this is called a ghost light, and they leave it on an unoccupied stage so that the theatre never truly goes dark. And it makes you wonder what thoughts are taking place on that empty stage and in that ghost light. Can we see how much art means to us and how much depends on their work? And can we see how little their work is normally valued by most people? It's always been my perspective that the people who live and work in the arts world are more connected than in any other industry. A lot of the time, it can be hard to walk onto a film set and not know someone that knows someone else, and I think that there's a sense of community in that. When the work you do means pouring your soul into creating something, then your coworkers aren't just your coworkers, they're someone that you've went on a journey with. And I think that that's where this companionship I see comes from. Abby Spallon created a GoFundMe page called the Bread and Butter Fund to help arts practitioners in Northern Ireland struggling to get by, and it raised over £16,000. Artists are using social media to stay more connected than they ever were before, and there's countless posts from people giving and receiving advice on how to get by, and I think it's nice to see communities like this bring themselves closer in isolation rather than drifting farther apart. My grandfather was an artist when he was younger, and we still have some of his older paintings, and they're vivid and detailed, and he was very skilled. Over time, it was something that he lost touch with, and he grew a bit older, and his arms got shakier, and he couldn't keep the brush steady like he used to. And now that we're in quarantine, you can't just go to an art shop and buy supplies anymore anyway. And that's why I was really surprised when he drew me this. it was my birthday, and he drew 3 pets of mine that have passed away. And it would be easy to look at this and maybe not think much, but when I look at it, I can't help but think how hard it must have been for him to cobble together the stuff to draw it, and, you know, keeping his arm as steady as what he could. It's become my favourite art of his now, and I'm glad that amidst everything that's going on, someone can become reconnected with their creative side again. As the filmmaker for the Arts for Reconciliation project, I've met hundreds of producers and funders and performers. You know, I've met writers and visual artists and lots of people who have experienced pain and loss, and so many of them say what a difference art has made to their lives, and that we need to rethink the way that we value artists' work, because their work matters. And I think that's where my closing thoughts come from. It's easy to view the things that we consume as just entertainment, but right now, in these unprecedented times, I don't think any of us could cope without it.